Well, the superstar guest appearances continue to roll on, and we have one of the greatest, one of the bestest, one of the coolest, one of the urinatingest people out there in these social media streets. This is Willie Epting Jr. Of course, this is the Ballers Podcast, courtesy and powered by the ShakeBack Media Group. I've got Steve from the Urinating Trees behind stage. And people have already reached out to us on Twitter about where did that name come from? It sounds very intriguing. So I told them, look, all of you guys that are asking me these questions, you need to tune in because I will definitely ask him at that point in time. So without further ado, he's backstage. We're going to bring him in here in just a second. But before we do that, you already know what we got to do. You already know what it is. So without further ado, it is time to go get it. Let's go. Let's go ahead and bring him on in here. There he is, my man Steve from the Urinating Tree. Man, what is going on? Thank you for coming on the show. How are you on this rainy day in both your area and in Dallas?
Yep. It's a little bit of a pour over here. The thing with Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania in general, you get these brief spurts of rain. It's usually more in the summertime. It can be sunny, rains for about 10 minutes, sunny again, and then it's just on and off. It's like a remote switch. But otherwise, I'm doing all right, man. It's a Wednesday. I can't believe it's already April already, but I mean, watching the Pirates on my TV right now. Hopefully they're not going to blow it. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, specifically for those Pirates. And as we were saying off air, I was actually watching the Rays. I'm sorry, not the Rays. The Pirates are playing the Rays, the Rangers, and the Reds because the Reds have Jose Trevino as their catcher now. Of course, he was traded to Cincinnati from the Yankees. Mm-hmm. And before he was with the Yankees, he was with the Rangers here. So I've actually had an opportunity to have him on the show a couple of different times. Actually got a chance to cover his toy drive out in the Colony, Texas, which is north of Dallas. So that was real fun in itself. So, but yeah, man, thank you so much for joining the show. Of course, I got to give a shout out to our girl, Mary over there at Mac and Cheese. She is the one that plugged us up. So I am very happy for her to have done that. She's watching. She's got a couple of comments already that we'll get to here in just a moment, man. But I gotta ask you this because, and I know I put this in the outline, but people have been already asking me, where in the world, well, who in the world is Urinating Tree? Where did he get that name from? I said, well, you guys need to tune in because I'm not going to tell you until he comes on. So here he is, and there's the question.
Well, I wish I had this cool backstory. I wish I could tell you about, it was like a story about me peeing on a tree when I was 8 years old. No. It's me being an edgelord on Xbox Live when I was 15. I was playing Rainbow Six. I think it was Black Arrow 20 years ago or a little over 20 years ago at the time. I'm sitting there thinking of like, okay, what would a cool like username be? Because, you're like 16, 17. You're trying to, be witty and edgy, as like a teenager. So I'm thinking it's like, it'd be a fun, cool name, Urinating Tree. And it just stuck. I don't know why. It just.
Well, the reason I'm thinking that it probably stuck, Steve, is because it's the Urinating Tree.
Right. And it's sports related. I don't know if it makes anything with sports, but I don't know.
Well, let's see if we can tie it to something in sports. All right. So obviously you're in Pittsburgh and you got the confluence there with the Monongahela and Erie. The Erie, no, was it?
The Allegheny and the
Allegheny in Ohio, yes.
Into the Ohio.
Yeah, so you got the confluence there. So you got 3 waterways there, so we could possibly tie it to that, maybe? No?
Maybe. Good. There are a bunch of different rivers that go in. Then the Monongahela, like I'm by the Youghiogheny right now, which is a disconnect from like the Monongahela,
Uh-huh.
a little further downstream. And then the Ohio, I mean, obviously goes through Missouri. So we like to think like we send our refuse down to Cincinnati. We send it down that way.
Now, is that from a Pirate standpoint or is that from a Steeler standpoint?
Steeler standpoint.
Oh, okay.
I mean, dude, Pirates and Reds have a bit of a rivalry, but it's Pirates have not been doing good. I'm just hoping they don't blow another lead again because yeah, the Pirates have been they've been blowing some leads. They blew 3 leads against the Marlins in the first 4 games. I think it's the first time it's ever happened in baseball history. And it's like, yeah, sounds good.
And speaking of that, because I saw where the Marlins, those 3 games that you talked about, those were all walk-off wins for the Marlins.
Yep.
How
One was
crazy
a
is
walk-off
that?
wild pitch. Yep, it's as I said, it's an openly tanking team in the Marlins, and like there wasn't much enthusiasm around here about the Pirates to begin with because they really didn't do much in the offseason. I mean, they've had an issue with their RSN where they have had to combine forces, and there's a revelation that Nuttings is actually losing money on the Pirates now because of that deal. But the reality is they were bringing in 1-year stopgaps. We have Tommy Pham hitting cleanup today, so that's it's not good. I mean, our first baseman is Spencer Horwitz. He's been hurt since spring training. Paul Skeens, we're just waiting for the moment when he's traded. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Which sucks. He's a tremendous pitcher. I hope to see him live in person someday. But as I said, it's just when at this point it's like, oh, great, okay.
Yeah, I hear you, man, and I'm an A's fan, so I feel your pain.
Dude, I mean, it's not looking good. I mean, they've had a lot of issues in their Sacramento debut too. Like their radio feed kept blacking out. They couldn't even sell at their stadium, I believe, up there.
Well, it was a packed house. I don't know if it was an actual sellout, but one of my colleagues, I shouldn't say colleagues, one of my friends, I guess, social media friends on on Instagram, she actually had a picture of the stadium, and it was the opening day, of course, and it seemed to have a lot of people. I can tell you this much. There were more people at that opening day game in Sacramento than there has been in Oakland for the last probably 10 years, except for the last game in Oakland where they beat the Rangers on that last day at Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. So I don't know if it was a sellout, but it was that. And then last night, of course, the A's lost to the Cubs, and Seiya Suzuki hit a 3-run bomb in that game. That guy, man, I thought he was going to be Rookie of the Year when he first came across the pond. He did have a tough rookie year, but he kind of bounced back in year 2. And I actually thought that the Cubs were going to do something last year. I actually picked them to win the division.
Same. I thought they would do well too. They just were massively disappointing. I couldn't tell you. The Cubs, like over the past decade, they've been like woefully underachieving because you always think they would get more World Series opportunities with the core they had, and they'd implode. And it was just a strange situation there. And then last year, you bring in Craig Counsell, you bring in Shohei Minaga, who's been excellent for them. You know, Cody Bellinger coming off an MVP caliber season again, and then there's just nothing. And now you're at the point where, okay, Kyle Tucker might be an overpriced rental if you can't get an extension with him. And then what happens with him?
Yeah, if they don't at least put something together this year, which they haven't really given us any real indication that they would. But if they don't, he obviously, in my opinion, is going to probably end up with either 1 or 3 teams like everybody else does.
Yep. It's a situation where, I mean, I feel like a lockout's inevitable in 2027. And not just because of like the disparity that haves and have-nots, it's because of the RSN situation. So many teams have lost their RSNs. They're losing money, or they've lost significant chunks of their revenue. And now it's going to be to the point where, look, we can't afford to keep up with these guys. We need something. And there's just going to be just a disparity between both.
Yeah. And hopefully, baseball and I get into people about this all the time, and I want to ask you about it. I mean, we've already strayed away from the lineup that I sent to you, so we may as well just keep going.
Right.
But because I get into it with people all the time on social media about baseball, and when you talk about the lockout,
Yeah.
I instantly go back not to the last one, not even the one before that, the one all the way back in 1994 that stopped the World Series, and a lot of people thought at that time that the then Cleveland Indians had a good shot to stop the Toronto Blue Jays from repeating. And then, of course, we had the work stoppage. And then next thing you know, we have the performance enhancing drug era. And then all these home runs are flying out of the ballpark. Baseball is relishing in the success of the home run derby every other game. It seemed like, those players that were allegedly involved and some that were knowingly involved, I believe that they should be in the Hall of Fame. And I just want to get your opinion about that.
My belief is I tend to exclude like the alleged steroid years. But in the cases of Clemens and Bonds, I feel they've done enough outside of those eras to be in the Hall of Fame. I think they should be in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's my belief. Like, guys like Palmeiro, Sosa, McGuire, I don't know if they did enough outside of those eras to really generate Hall of Fame. But otherwise, like, those two should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. They were the greatest players of their generation regardless. A guy like Barry Bonds, he was still like hitting 330, one of the best pure hitters of his generation. He just got jealous seeing Sosa and McGuire get all the attention. Like, oh yeah, you're going to do that? I'm going to show you like what a real hitter can do on steroids. And now he's hitting like 70.
Yeah. And for him to hit 73 in 1 year, and then of course McGuire hit 70 and Sosa hit 66, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, that was when I was a kid.
Yeah. And here's my thing about it. And I respect everybody's opinion. I just don't get into, I don't relish it when people start becoming so disrespectful to me just having an opinion.
Oh yeah.
But here's my opinion.
That's just common discourse in general.
Yeah, but here's my take on it. Baseball needed an injection and that is a pun intended right there. They needed an injection. They knew they needed an injection because of what happened with the work stoppage, and it really being the owner's fault, if you ask me. And the game was not as it wasn't as nearly as appealing as it was probably in the early 90s to the late 80s and even into the mid 80s for that matter. When you had pitchers that would actually pitch entire games and win 25 games in a year and strike out 300 in a season. I think baseball knew that they needed an infusion. So when that happened,
they turned not only because the ratings, it's like, oh, look, they're actually interested in baseball again. Because a lot of fans were turned off from 94. I mean, it destroyed baseball in Montreal.
Yes,
there were a couple other cities that had issues too, like the Yankees were looking to compete for another World Series. You mentioned the Indians had a good chance of doing something there. The Braves were in the fight. Like, it's just a lot of storylines will never be known.
Yeah, and that's why I say, since baseball turned a blind eye to it, that's just the tip of the iceberg for me. The fact that they profited so much money from that era. And knowingly that was taking place behind the scenes, that's why I say those guys that have been excluded. I don't know. I'm like you. I don't know if Sammy Sosa did enough outside of the era. I think McGuire did.
McGuire's close.
Yeah, I think McGuire did. And then you talk about A-Rod. A-Rod should be in. I think Manny Ramirez should be in. So
David Ortiz was caught with steroids. He's in the Hall.
Exactly.
What's the point?
Exactly. And I think it's more of those media guys that have a vote. They necessarily didn't care for A-Rod or definitely not Manny.
Gatekeepers.
Yeah, not.
I mean,
definitely.
Like, say what you will about Curt Schilling. Like, the dude's a kook. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. It's verified.
And he's one.
But he's hold on.
He's one of the best big game pitchers the league has ever, or the majors has ever seen.
Yeah, the bloody sock, like, that's iconic.
Yeah, but some people think that was a
stunt. But it's still iconic.
Yeah, I mean, but whether it was or whether it wasn't, the fact of the matter is that when he pitched in those situations, he came up big. He was never too small for the moment. And for me, that's why I'm like, okay, yeah, he should be in. Manny should be in. And I was going to say that maybe Big Papi got in because he was so well beloved and so respected. And then those other guys, people, the media didn't really care for them nearly as much.
And New York hated A-Rod. They always thought he was like the lightning rod, and Derek Jeter was the golden boy. Even though Derek Jeter had some of the worst defensive statistics as a shortstop in his era, especially in his later years.
Yeah, and for me, Derek Jeter, he came up so big in the postseason, and there was that one stupid play in the playoffs against the A's where it was actually two plays against the A's, but the one where he went all the way into foul ground and on the first base side and tossed the ball back and was able to get Jeremy Giambi tagged out at the plate when Giambi he knew he should have slid. If he would have slid in the home plate, I promise you the A's would have gone to the World Series that year.
Not just that, man. I mean, dude, they were loaded at pitcher, man. Zito, Mulder, and Hudson.
Tim Hudson.
Every 3 days. Loaded.
But when we talk about how like the Cubs, for instance, we talked about a second ago how they dramatically underachieved last year. That was the A's Achilles heel in the playoffs. Even with all those great aces, under Bob Melvin, we could never put it together and get past that freaking first round, even after having home field advantage, winning the division, having all these great hurlers, having a good bullpen, having these guys that were competing for MVP awards with Giambi and Tejada, and we just could never put it together. It was so sickening.
That's how the Pirates were, like, especially 13 through 15. Like, they had these tremendous teams. And, like, my highlight as a fan of the Pirates is a wild card game. And it's depressing because I was too young to remember the early 90s. I didn't remember the 92 run. I have to do double takes every time you think, like, oh, Barry Bonds was a Pirate. Van Slyke was a Pirate. Moises Alou was a Pirate for a hot minute. Guys like Denny Nagel and, Zane Smith. Guys like that who were like legitimate hurlers. But then it's just, and then I grew up in the mid 90s. Like, it was the freak show of 97, which was like the highlight where they had a $9 million payroll, nearly made it to 500, and then you have just constant embarrassment. And it's like, oh God. And then, because like 15 was the huge breath of or 13 was the huge breath of fresh air because, whoa, this team doesn't suck anymore. Like I was 25. When that happened. That's how long it was. And now you're back to being, there's a runner on second. It's 3-2. Colin Holderman's one of our terrible bullpen arms is up, and they're probably going to blow this lead because there's one out. So we'll see. They've already given up a run. I'm hoping not, but
what's the score right now?
It's 3-2. They scored a run in the last inning. Our closer, David Bednar, he's a local product. He was a mess last year. He had ERAs over 11 in 2 separate months. He was getting shelled in April. He's already been demoted to AAA. It's been that bad.
Yeah.
But it's a Pirates fan, baby. We're in year 6 of a rebuild, and we are going backwards.
Well, I'm going to get to some Steel City stuff here in just a second, but we got a couple of social media comments. Chelsea Wood without the S says hi.
Hi, Chelsea.
And then she says, "You're amazing, Tree."
Thank you, Chelsea. Appreciate
it. And hi from the Mac and Cheese podcast. Okay, I haven't met Chelsea. Well, I guess I haven't met anybody, but you know what I'm trying to say. And then Mary says, "Where's Tree?" That's because
oh, Mary. Come on.
That's because you were backstage when I started the show. So, exactly. and maybe I should have told her that that's how I do things. I have to build up the intro for the guest that's coming on.
The intensity.
Yeah. Then she says, "Hi everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day and have a good show. I hope we're having a good show, and I hope you guys are enjoying it." Yeah, keep on dropping your comments, man. We're gonna get to that. We'll get to all of them. Hi, Tree from the podcast crew again.
Absolutely, Mary.
And then she wants to tell us that her computer is muting the live stream. I don't know where she. Oh yeah, she's in Florida. So DK Metcalf. Oh wait, this is a baseball show. No, actually, this is not just baseball. We just started out with baseball, but we're gonna get to some football here in just a moment.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned. And then I am sending everyone over. LOL. Yeah, bring them over, man. We love it. We love it.
Come on.
So, so let's just go ahead and get. I'm gonna steer the car back to the outline, if that's okay.
Absolutely, man. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. All right. So since we're talking about baseball, I do want to ask you, what is the one thing that made you fall in love with baseball, and then of course with the Pirates?
I would say, honestly, just going to games at the old Three Rivers Stadium when I was a kid. Just like I was always a fan of sports growing up, football, hockey, baseball, more or less the big three around here, even though the Pirates weren't good. I mean, you don't care about that when you're 5 or 6. It's just the experience of going to the old Three Rivers. And I know we were talking about Oko back in the day, or like a few minutes ago. I was actually at their Coliseum 3 years ago, I believe. But it was like it gave me that throwback to Three Rivers, like that big concrete, like circle shoebox, one size fits all. It's like it took me back. It's like, yes, it takes me back to when I was a kid. It's shown its age, but I mean that's how Three Rivers was, man. You weren't there for the experience. I mean, you were just there for the baseball.
Yeah, and you're right, because Three River Stadium, the Vet, Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, all
Riverside
those
Stadium.
Yeah, Riverfront Stadium, all those stadiums that served as dual venues for the football team and the baseball team. We're never going to see that again.
Nope.
We're never, and it's probably a good thing too, because the way that the track or the turf or the field gets so torn up from either sport, really. And then when you have the crossover or the overlap between football and baseball season, when you got the dirt from the infield on the football field, I know Oakland was the last of the venues to actually do that. So it is tremendous to see where everything has come from a venue standpoint. And even here in Dallas, where like it was the old Arlington Stadium before they renamed it Global Life Park. Now they have Global Life Field where the retractable roof is and everything's going on there. And the All-Star game being here, the World Series being here during the COVID season was tremendous. All right. So, yeah, I feel that, man. I feel the same way when it comes to my A's. It was the exact same story. My dad actually played semi-pro ball and knew a lot of those players from back in the day. So that got me in love with the sport of baseball as well. All right, let's keep on rolling on because time already is flying by.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so the player that was formerly with the Buccos who betrayed you by going to another team. And I should have caveated this by saying you cannot select Barry Bonds, but it's up to you.
I was too young to remember Barry Bonds. That's the thing.
Okay.
The thing is, as a Pirates fan, you kind of understand that players like betray because usually they would trade them or they would move on because of contract concerns. That's why you wouldn't really get attached to guys for the most part because you realize the team was bad. Once they got too expensive, they'd move on. Guys like Jason Bay, they would move on. Brian Giles, he was really good for the Pirates, but he had to move on because they were willing to shed payroll. I'd say the one that stung the most, though, was Aramis Ramirez. He was 25. They were trying to shed payroll in 2003, and they ended up trading him in what's considered one of the worst trades in baseball history. It was just a deliberate cap dump. It was him and Kenny Lofton, who I still have a hard time believing was a Pirate at one point because of just like depressed salaries. But they traded them to the Cubs for some rubbish. It was Bobby Hill, who was a former top prospect, never panned out. Jose Hernandez, who struck out like crazy even during those times. And a AAA pitcher who got cut in a month. It was terrible from day one. And then you see Ramirez keep raking against the Pirates for over a decade. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah, he was a pretty good doggone player, Ramirez. I didn't realize, like you said, Kenny Lofton was even with the Pirates because of his heyday with the Indians.
Oh, yeah. The 2003 team was weird. You had a bunch of veterans brought in because of, I think the depressed salaries. It was Reggie Sanders, who actually did really well with the Pirates. Matt Stairs was with the Pirates for a hot minute. And Kenny Lofton. Yeah,
Matt Stairs once played with the A's as well. Yeah, and I think he went from the A's maybe to the Cubs. I'm not mistaken.
I know he
back
was
then.
with the Royals for a hot minute. He had that stint in San Diego. I think he started out in Montreal, if I remember correctly. And then he had that, that big World Series home run with the Phillies in 08.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that team was Ryan Howard and
Yep. Chase
those
Utley,
Chase Utley,
Cole
Jimmy
Hamels,
Rollins, all those guys, man, they were terrific.
Flying Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the next question. In contrast, name a player that came to Pittsburgh that brought you the most joy. And let me say this. Let me preface it by saying this. It could be football, it could be baseball, or it could be hockey.
Ooh. I mean, because it's tough because there's so many different options you can choose. I mean, Sidney Crosby when he was drafted with the Penguins,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have to go with Polamalu, especially after his second year. He was a special player to watch, especially him just screaming past offensive lines and just diving and destroying plays. Like he was a specimen in his heyday.
Yeah, and when you talk about that Pittsburgh defense with Polamalu and Ryan Clark in the defense, man, I did not realize how Ryan Clark used to just play with reckless abandonment out there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and this was even after he nearly died after playing a game in Denver. They had to take out some like 2/3 of his intestinal tract or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But and then he was still playing with a band. He just couldn't play in Denver anymore.
yeah. That was not only scary and crazy, but it just was a testament to how that if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Clark was an undrafted player,
I
and
mean, I'm trying to think. I'm not sure. I know he was a Redskin
mm,
before he signed with the Steelers. I'm
yeah,
not sure, like if he was undrafted. He might have been.
I think he was undrafted, and whether it was undrafted or in the later rounds, the way that he
So
played was an exact uh, mirror, if you will, or reflection of where he was in terms of either being an undrafted free agent or being drafted in the later rounds. So I know he won a Super Bowl with you guys back
yep,
in
with 09. And
yeah with
you were
the
right.
09.
He was undrafted. He actually started with the Giants.
Yeah, and he hates the Giants organization to this day.
I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, if they just let him go for somebody else, I'd have a chip on my shoulder too.
Yeah, and he's talked about it on his podcast, The Pivot, and he's talked about it on Get Up on ESPN with Mike Greenberg and that crew. But he was like, and he hates Aaron Rodgers as well. I know he's not really rooting for him to get signed by the Steelers. So let's just go there. What is the buzz in the Steel City with Aaron coming out there to be the next quarterback?
Honestly, we don't even know at this point. We thought, I mean, they're more or less assuming a deal is going to be made, but we just don't know when. It's just one of those things where I don't want Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers. I think he's too much baggage. I think he's nowhere near what he was. He doesn't have the mobility anymore, especially because of the torn Achilles. He had a lot of issues with pressure with the Jets organization, and he had like situations where he's no longer the elite quarterback he was. He's more of a low-end starter, if that. And I just don't think it's really going to work in this scenario because, I mean, at least Russell Wilson still had mobility. Not as much mobility as he had in Seattle, but still had some mobility. I think the thing with Rodgers, there are a couple like rumors as to when he'll sign. One may be during draft day in Green Bay. Another is Pat McAfee is going to be having a live performance at PPG Paints Arena on April 9th, I believe.
Is that in
he'll
Pittsburgh?
sign. Well, yeah, that's in Pittsburgh. And he'll sign then. Which the situation is, this is what Aaron Rodgers, he is. Like, he's the center of attention. The Steelers are powerless right now. And it's just a situation where the fan base is kind of divided in the middle. There are people that want Aaron Rodgers, or there are a lot of people like me. It's like, we don't want anything to do with him. But the problem is, what else is out there?
Yeah.
Like,
and
we have Mason Rudolph and Trace Thompson. Skylar Thompson. I'm thinking baseball, Trace Thompson. But I mean, at this rate, I would have just gone with like a guy like a famous Jameis and punted to 2026 when you would have had a better chance at a better draft class. But it's just the draft class here offers, it's kind of like 22's class with Kenny Pickett. It's just it's a bunch of guys who, okay, they could be good. They're projects. It's going to take a bit for them to be anything, if that. Like, Cam Ward, he's already going to be gone. I think Shador is probably going to be gone. I'm kind of, I mean, they both have upside, but they're not going to be ready soon. Jackson Dart, he gives me kind of those Zach Wilson vibes, very boom bust. I just don't like Jalen Milroe. I think he kind of reminds me too much of Anthony Richardson. And then you have maybe like Tyler Show, who was playing when Justin Herbert was in college. It's like 7 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's just, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know, because the Steelers are kind of in that situation where you want to maximize what you have left of Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. You brought in DK Metcalf. You're paying him $30 million. Who's throwing to him?
Yeah, good point. And speaking of that, this is what Mary asked, DK Metcalf. And she really didn't specify what she wants to know about DK or what she wants you to say about DK Metcalf. Ooh. Maybe she'll put it in here, but she also has a question. She said, hey, Tree, quick question. Is there a Clickbait Sports tomorrow?
I'm not sure. I know Tom's on vacation in Japan, so I'm not sure if Clickbait's going to be happening, because I know Brandon, I think, has a few things happening next week as well.
Okay. So there it is, Mary. If your computer is still not muting itself or whatever you said, whatever you said it was doing, there's your answer. Oh, okay. Tree's opinion about DK. Let's hear it.
I think with DK, I like him as a receiver. I think the man's chiseled from marble. He's a tremendous home run threat. But the problem is he's very hot and cold, especially over the last year. He got overtaken by JSN in terms of primary role. And there are issues with him running routes. And the problem is, I have too, he's very comparable in terms of his play style to George Pickens. So my belief is, okay, Pickens might be gone this year or after free agency. And so my question is, you don't have a foil. You have two big home run threats. So are we just throwing moon balls down the sideline, hoping they get penalties? Or well, I'm not sure what's going on there. Because with the running situation as well, Najee's gone. I'm kind of take it or leave it with him. But they just never really had a line to block for him. And now you have two running backs that are similar as well in Jaylen Warren, who I believe is excellent, and Kenneth Gainwell. But Gainwell's not really a power back. So I'm guessing they're going to draft a power back day 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. And, of course, it does start at the quarterback position. And I actually talked about this on one of my other shows last week. I was talking about the Steelers and what are they going to do? And you've already mentioned it in terms of who else is out there, and there's really not anybody else out there. I mean, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he's on the coaching staff with the Raiders. So if I'm not mistaken, I
think Joe Flacco
still
Carson
Wentz. I mean, and I know it's not the Steelers' MO to move that far into the first round to grab a quarterback. But this team, and with Mike Tomlin and that defense that has playmakers at every single level, it's something that I feel like they should think about, only because of what I just said. And when you have these two dynamic receivers, when you have these two good but not necessarily great running backs, you have Pat Freiermuth, who's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. It just seems to me that you are really, truly a quarterback away.
I don't see it that way, because my belief is, like, if you look at how they play against teams like the Chiefs, the Eagles, I mean, the Ravens as of late, they get destroyed. I mean, if you look at, like, their defensive stats in the playoffs over the last 6 or 7 games, they've given up something like 35 points a game. So it's just, I don't know if it's a schematic situation. I know, like, TJ Watt was injured most of last year. So I don't know if that, I mean, I feel like that had something to do with it. But I think the thing with, like, I think they have a few other issues they need to figure out. They need a true slot receiver. They need a power back. Inside linebacker, I mean, it's kind of working out there, but it's more or less a depend there. You need a second corner. I know you brought in Darius Slay, but I think they may be going corner in the draft, especially maybe 3rd or 4th round, see if they can get a guy there. The thing, too, with trading up for a quarterback, once again, most of the guys here are projects. So I'm not sure if they'll be ready day 1. And if they're going to draft somebody, it'll probably be, if they do sign Aaron Rodgers, they'll bring him in maybe as a developmental role and, like, maybe compete with Skylar Thompson for, like, I would say probably 3rd string, and they'll probably move Skylar Thompson to the practice squad. But I know I'm thinking, too, with someone like a trade up as well, you did trade your 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd be having to trade next year's first to move up. And the Steelers have never really been into doing that sort of thing. The last time they did that sort of move was for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which did work out, but that was for an NFL-ready player. That wasn't for somebody as like in terms of draft position.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm glad you put it that way, because obviously you have a much larger fingerprint on what's going on up there in Pittsburgh than somebody like me that's on the outside looking in. And if they do sign Aaron Rodgers, okay, if they do sign, and look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers from last year. And I know everything does not always revolve around statistics, but the numbers are what they are. He had 28 touchdown passes last year in probably the worst coaching situation that we've seen in any sport in recent memory. And he showed flashes, but he doesn't, in my opinion, he doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers that won 3 straight MVPs. He just needs to be Aaron Rodgers that won't freaking turn the ball over and let him slide right in there for a year and see what happens.
My question is, though, once again, it's with his mobility, because there were some situations where he got eaten alive. I mean, the Cardinals game and the Bills game in particular, where he couldn't do anything. And the final drive against the Colts, where he just doesn't have the maneuverability in the pocket that he used to. Mm-hmm. And that's my concern, because, I mean, you're coming from a situation where your tackles gave up, I think, some of the most sacks in football. And, I mean, Dan Moore's gone. I don't know how he got $50 million guaranteed. That's a mystery to me. But, I mean, you have Broderick Jones. I mean, he was a massive disappointment last year. He was just I love the pick at the time, but he just has not converted to the NFL. Maybe converting him to left tackle will work. You have Troy Fautanu at right tackle, but he was injured most of last year, so he doesn't really have much experience. It's kind of his rookie year there. Mm-hmm. So more or less your interior set, your questions on the tackles. Mm-hmm. And it's more or less wondering if they can develop. So as I said, like with Rodgers, my question there is just the ability to move around in the pocket. Because I mean, I remember just Ben's final years, and it was sad because his arm was gone. He didn't have the mobility. He was just like throwing like crossing routes to Juju as he gets decked by Von Bell. It's like, oh God.
Yeah. And what the injury that Big Ben had was his
elbow.
Yeah. And it was a Tommy John type of thing, wasn't it?
It was close to it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Mary asked the question. Here it is right here. She says, who is this Brandon person? I don't know. I think it was when you were talking about somebody going on vacation.
Oh, Brendan. Yeah. We're talking about Brendan Perna.
Okay.
That's Good Sports. I mean, one of the guys we work with. I think she's being like sarcastic.
I think she is too, because she said LOL on the end of it.
Yeah.
And then she says, who is this Aaron Rodgers, not in NFL terms?
Ooh, I would say probably the devil you're trying to make a deal with.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I saw Mike Tomlin's interview the other day, and that guy, he knows exactly how to deal with the media. And if he ever decides that he wants to be a media person, I think he would be fantastic at it.
I think too. I think he's probably, it wouldn't shock me if he ends up going to Fox in the future to replace Bradshaw or Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, because Jimmy Johnson has retired.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Bradshaw's got to be close too.
Yeah, Bradshaw is he's probably pushing 76 years old.
Yeah, but he has not been good the last couple of years. It's obvious he's lost a step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So give us an update. What we looking like there with the Pirates and the Rays?
Well, it's 4-2 Pirates. We have our ninth inning guy, Dennis Santana, out to close now. I mean, Holderman did give up a run, but they got out of the jam. Mm-hmm. They got an extra run on a sacrifice fly by O'Neal Cruz. 1 out, 1-2 count on Unior Caminero, who is one of their top prospects. So we'll see here. Santana sets at the belt. Caminero ready. Lines, deals. It's a ground ball to the shortstop. Easily picked up by IKF. Gently throws the first with the second out. Let's go. They actually won a game.
One out away. That's good.
My thing is too, like, I know, like, I wanted the Rays to move back to Tampa, but there's something ironic about the Rays playing in the Yankee spring training facility.
Yes, because of the hurricane damage from last fall, or late last fall and into the winter. That was crazy. All right,
apparently they want to rebuild it, and the St. Petersburg deal's off now, and it's just it's a mess.
Yeah, you remember last year or maybe the year before that, they were talking about them playing half their games in Montreal and the other half in Tampa.
Yep, they nixed that. Baseball realizes like, wait, this isn't going to work because the problem is with Montreal, with how they got screwed over by baseball back 20, 30 years ago, the only way that they were going to accept baseball is with the Expos in a new stadium. Like, not a part-time. It wasn't going to work.
No doubt. And that Montreal Expos teams with Larry Walker, Tim Raines, and all those guys, before Pedro went to the Red Sox.
As I said, they were loaded, man.
Yes, they were. Andre, I mean, they had a lot of great players that came through. And here's something that I need for not necessarily millennials, but like whatever this generation is now. I don't know what they call it.
It's Gen
Z,
X,
Gen Z,
the Zoomers.
Yeah, I need Gen Z to understand something. The team that you see playing in Washington, D.C. used to be the Montreal Expos. And that's when there were 2 divisions in each league. Steve, you might not remember that.
I remember 3. I don't remember 2. I was a little too young for that. I mean, before our time, too, Washington had 2 franchises named the Senators. They're now the Twins and the Rangers.
That is very correct. That is very correct. All right. I got a couple more questions. We got about 10 minutes left to go in the show, man. I so appreciate you being on. Again, we got Steve on with the Urinating Tree. Thank you guys out there for checking us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram TV, and of course, Twitter. And Mary has another comment here. She says, it's so bad here in Tampa, close to it. Yeah. And the fact that they nixed the deal for the new stadium, they kind of reminds me of what happened in Oakland because
they had a bunch of deals fall through.
They had a bunch of deals to fall through, and the stadium, I still got cousins that live out there. I've been back out there more than a few times, and the last deal that they had in place was for a stadium near Jack London Square, which would have been tremendous.
I know they were looking at Howard Terminal for a while, but now I mean, I was kind of thinking like they were using that as like a buffer to deal with Las Vegas. And when they said, I mean, they were giving them the moon, and like they said, like, oh no, we're going to Vegas.
Yeah, and
that stadium's not going to be ready in like 3 years, and who knows what happens with that deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one's gonna be solidified. I mean, they broke ground on it. They got the prototype out there and everything, so I think it's a go. And the stadium is going to be tight. I mean, if you haven't seen it, yeah, it's going to be tremendous. All right. I got a couple more questions for you before we get out of here, man. And this was a big one right here that I really wanted to get an answer from you on. And we've already talked about Aaron Rodgers. We've already talked about the Pirates. So let me ask you this. Who are your 5 greatest Steel City athletes that you have seen?
I mean, that's a good question, man. I mean, I have to go back like a ways for this. I would have to say for the Pirates, you got to pick Andrew McCutchen. He was pretty much the future at the time, the first real superstar we had in the Pirates. Like, we had good players on the Pirates, Brian Giles, Chris Benson was a top prospect at the time, Ollie Perez for a little bit, Jason Bay, but Kutch was just a bona fide superstar. And he was the guy that kind of turned the tide in terms of how bad everything was. Like, Kutch is still one of our better hitters on the team, and he's 38.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's just, I would say him. I mean, for the Penguins, you got to go Sidney Crosby. I mean, the dude's a machine. He's 20 years, over a point per game. He still hasn't stopped. I mean, it's just, dear God, like he's just, I mean, you could obviously say he saved hockey in Pittsburgh. If you actually look at a lot of the history of like the Penguins, they were on the verge of moving something like 7 or 8 times, and then they just magically be saved by either a good playoff run or a casino deal or something else that just popped up in the middle of nowhere. I would say probably Mario Lemieux for that instance as well, because I mean, I remember seeing him in the mid 90s just dazzle even with the injuries. Him coming back was a huge deal. Like, that was much watched television with him and Yager being back on the same time. I would go with Troy Polamalu for the Steelers because, I mean, the dude was just a legend to watch, just a treat every time, especially in his prime. I mean, he was an even greater human being as well. I mean, same thing with Cam Hayward. Like, he does a lot of work in the city and with charity. Like, so one of those people as well. In terms of my 5th, though, I mean, there's so many choices you can pick from here, man. I mean, Hines Ward, especially for those back blocks.
That are no longer
you got
allowed.
Guinea Malkin, Yager. Scanes, I mean, could be one if in due time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that dude, the fifth one, that's just.
I'll make it easy on you. How about that? How about I make it easy on you?
Yeah.
All those players that you mentioned, they are number 5.
Oh, yeah, that works. I mean, if I had to pick one of them, probably Hines Ward.
All right, man. All right. So before we bounce up out of here, I want you to tell everybody how they can follow you, they can see you, they can hear your shows, any business events, side hustles, whatever you got going on. Here's your chance to, I call it the shameless plug portion of the show.
I love me some shameless plugs, man. Appreciate you. Well, I on YouTube under the name Urinating Tree. I post about a video or 2 a week there. I'm going to be doing some stuff in the NFL draft. I also do a stream with a guy named 5 Points Vids on the Dumpster Fire every Tuesday night. So we do a show on there. We'll be doing a big show for the NFL draft as well. On Twitter, I go under Urinating Tree or Schlosser, more or less. I would say that. I also have an Instagram, urinating_tree. I don't really post on there that much. I'll probably be ramping up a little bit because we're bringing back Bros versus Pros this year for baseball. We took a year off last year. We had been doing the previous 2 years. We're playing the Portland Pickles this year. Date hasn't been confirmed yet, but it looks like we're going to be playing them in Oregon. So
okay.
Looking forward to that.
Cool. Nice stuff. And you are welcome back anytime, my friend.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on. This was a blast.
Yeah, this is one of the better shows that I've done since the last one. Let me just put it.
Hey, that's all that matters, man. You're trying to butter me up. It's like, oh yeah, it's great. It's the last show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like a mentor of mine once told me, and this was a pool shark because we were talking about pool and being pool hustlers. He said, Willie, you're only as good as your last game. So in this case, you're only as good as your last show. And this is going to be the last show before the next one. All right, we got one more comment out there before we bounce. Woohoo! The NFL draft.
Especially as a Green Bay fan. I mean,
yeah,
big things coming up for them.
She's going to be there, as she has so excitedly said. Oh, there's another comment. Yep, I'll be there. We just said that. So, yeah.
If you follow Tom Grossi, I mean, that's his big thing. I mean, I'm hoping he's able to announce a pick in this draft. But, I mean, dude, it's going to be a big event, man.
All right, one more thing. I got to give you this. For being on the show. And then, of course, I got to pay the bills. We have a sponsor that needs to take care of that we need to make sure we play this. So, here we go.
Ladies, life can get overwhelming, but you don't have to navigate it alone. At Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions, we specialize in helping women like you to regain clarity, confidence, and control. I'm Patrice Epting, a certified life coach, here to walk alongside you through life's toughest moments. Whether it's relationships, mental health, or building a stronger mindset, together we'll create a plan tailored just for you to step into your best self. Take the first step today. Visit Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions by calling for your free consultation at 469-358-5241. You're strong, capable, and deserving of the life you dream of. Let's make it happen together. Visit Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions by calling for your free consultation at 469-358-5241. Whether it's relationships, mental health, or building a stronger mindset, visit Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions by calling for your free consultation at 469-358-5241. Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions.
Yes, thank you. That is my beautiful rib, Patrice. Thank you for that so eloquently put together commercial. All right, Steve, any final thoughts before we get up out of here, man?
Well, Pirates won, so raise the Jolly Roger. Hopefully not the last time it happens this week. So I'm looking to go to the game on Saturday, but I think it's going to get rained out. I mean, there's a lot of rain coming in Pittsburgh over the next few days. So
yeah, and be safe, man, because I saw Ginger Z on ABC this morning, Good Morning America, and she talked about how there's going to be a line that's going to be moving through here and through where you are.
Yep.
And then after that, there's going to be another line that's going to have a whole bunch of rain with it. So make sure you be safe, man. Make sure you be safe.
Yep, definitely. You too, brother.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, guys, we are going to wrap this thing up for the Urinating Tree. This is Willie. Y'all make sure y'all take care of each other. Y'all hug each other. Y'all love each other. I promise you'll be all right. Y'all get real soon. Be out.
So you see them the basement, say some scientific nation to fail. Blind communities, they read it in braille. Politicians with the skin and scales, pigtails, sending soldiers and ship to sailors, sunken city, divers and trails. Down below, search for survivors, there's no people for several miles, desert town.